Hi, everyone, and welcome to Seirim Cybersecurity Daily Report. Hi, Steven. How are you today? How was your vacation?
It was great. Thank you. I was sick a part of the time, but I have recovered, so I'm back in action, ready to join you here on the cybersecurity news front.
That's great. Okay, good to hear that you have recovered and everything is good. Today, we're going to talk about news that the whole cybersecurity world is talking about. It's basically about the Salesforce cyber attack, Discord breach that exposed data of 5.5 million users. Let's dive in. Salesforce has firmly rejected paying a ransom to cybercriminals who claim to have stolen nearly 1 billion customer records. The company says it will not engage, negotiate with, or pay any extortion demand. A group calling itself Scattered Lapsus Hunters listed 39 of Salesforce customer environments, claiming possession of 989.45 million stolen records, and gave an October 10th deadline, which is today, for negotiation or public release. They also offered $10 in Bitcoin as bounty to anyone who would harass Salesforce executives, apparently to ramp pressure. Salesforce says those claims relate to past or unverified incidents and insists its own platform hasn't been breached or tied to any known vulnerability. They contend much of the data allegedly stolen may originate from past incidents. In particular, they trace some of it to a breach of SalesLoft's Drift integration, wherein tokens were compromised, leading to access in various Salesforce instances. Salesforce is aiming to take a hard line. By refusing to pay, it discourages ransom culture and avoids any attackers. But it must also manage customer confidence, ensure security, and deal with fallout in case data is valid and gets leaked. Some risk remains from backlash by attackers, especially given their public threats and the scale of the data they claim to hold. So, what do you think about it, Steven?
Well, the first takeaway here is that it's, not paying the ransom can be an option, and companies always have to consider that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see Salesforce doing that here and showing that it's a possibility, right? Now, it might be the case here that it's because it might be old hacked information from months ago, because this is an ongoing issue. So they might feel confident enough that it's not enough data, but it was some pretty significant data. So it's kind of edgy that they're doing that. And some of their customers may not be happy about it, for example, right?
Yes.
So, but in the prevention category, I would really mention that data sensitivity is an issue here, right? And that companies have to be more cautious about what they're connecting to their data. So this data was all about going through the SalesLoft app, which is a plugin in Salesforce, and it's to make pitch decks. And so that connected to whole Salesforce databases, right? So as they connected one app after another, it just really increased the attack surface to that data all the way back at the root.
Yes.
So the companies has to be cautious about, do we need to connect all these apps in a chain, right? You need something to help you make a pitch deck, fine, maybe, but do you have to connect it? Do you have to give it total access? So this is the same as when you're on your phone, you accept all the terms of the application, you don't really read the fine details, right? It's the same with these apps that companies are always tacking on to their already existing app. It sprawls. And it adds layer after layer of vulnerability, basically. So in this case, a lot of the companies affected, they could have maybe chosen to use this app. And when they do, and they need to make a pitch deck, only bring that data over to make that pitch deck, right? Don't connect the app to the huge trove of data on the back end. And if it gets exposed, then it's all that data exposed, right? So more caution on the parts of the companies would have served them well here. And apart from that, the vector for the attack was also through access keys and tokens. That's how they originally got in, through OAuth tokens at a deep level. And originally, the real start of the attack was a GitHub account. So if the hackers can get access at those really root levels, that's where a lot of vulnerability lies. So guard those much more securely. That's possible via discussions with your developers, and you got to impress upon them really closely the security issues involved.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I absolutely agree with you. That's really smart points you mentioned. Let's talk about the Discord. Discord also had some cyber attack and some data breach recently. Hackers assert they exposed Discord's Zentek support system instance, claiming exposure of data of 5.5 million unique users. They purport to have stolen 1.6 terabyte of data, including about 1.5 terabyte of attachments and over 100 gigabyte of ticket transcripts. The attackers also say they accessed credit payment information for about 580,000 users, and that a large number of government ID photos, it's allegedly about 2.1 million, were exposed. They later admit uncertainty in that figure. So, Discord insists that this was not a breach of its platform itself, but rather of a third-party service that Discord employed. They challenge the numbers claimed by the attackers, stating only 70,000 users may have had government ID photos exposed, mainly from age verification workflows. The company firmly stated that it will not reward those responsible for their illegal actions. The attackers claim access to the support environment via a compromised account tied to a support agent working through an outsourced business process outsourcing provider used by Discord. They say they had access for 58 hours starting September 20th this year, 2025. Using access to the support system's internal Zenbar tool, they claim to have disabled multi-factor authentication and performed lookups on users' personal info like emails, phone numbers, and internal data via API calls integrated between support tools and Discord's internal databases. The attackers demanded $5 million ransom, later reducing it to $3.5 million, and engaged in private talks between September 25th to October 2nd. After Discord issued its public statement and ended communication, the hackers threatened to leak the data publicly. So this is terrible as well. So what do you think about lesson learned in this case?
This is quite an impactful situation for Discord. We tied these two together today because it's notable that they say they aren't going to pay any ransomware. So good on them, right?
Yes.
But bad on Discord in many ways here, right? So critically, a big thing they did wrong, that's just glaring, and it's right at the top of the headline here, is that they lost or have been breached many government IDs, the original IDs of all these users, right? Now, Discord said it's only 70,000. Still
It's
a
still a
lot,
lot.
of course, of people's, personally identifiable information out there. The hacker says was it 5 million IDs they have? So who knows? The issue here is, though, that was for verification for accounts, right? So data minimization is all about if you don't need it, you don't store it, you don't keep it. It's a risk, it's a liability to keep hold of that data. So once you've performed the action necessary, you verified the account, the name the user said was their name, they are who they say they were, delete the data, right? Set that to be automatically discarded so that this situation would have been less impactful. Now, also on that same or similarly connected, data segmentation would have helped here too, right? The hackers got access to 1.6 terabytes of information in only 58 hours of time, right?
Yes.
That's a lot of information. So they got a big centralized data trove. Did all that information need to be together? This is from the chat for support, right? So you got users sending in their images, like this is what problem I'm having, how do I fix it? All those support assets that are maybe not that valuable, but they're also in the same data set as the government IDs. What's going on there, right?
Yes.
So all of this data was accessed an external third-party worker that had access to all of this, but just by that one account getting breached. That's too much access, too much liability, all in one place. It should have been privileged access, and it should have been segmented, and ideally would have been in there in the first place. Now, the last bit here is a little bit of that is pointing to third-party supply chain risk, right? Because it's the business process outsourcer where it occurred, and they blame it on Zendesk software, right? But the fact is, it was an instance of Zendesk on Discord servers and, really controlled by Discord. So it still remains their responsibility to safeguard the data, even if they were using that service. So Zendesk has a role here. What's the name of the app within Zendesk that was involved? It's like a sub.
Zenbar.
That's the issue there.
Zenbar tool.
Zenbar tool, right? But as we see, it's still Discord's responsibility in the end to safeguard that data. So those are the takeaways for me. A lot to learn from that one. All companies can do better in each one of these regards. I think it's a useful lesson.
Yeah. So basically here we're talking about cybersecurity basics, but sometimes everything genius is simple, right? So just need to keep thinking about cybersecurity basics and keep your company safe.
All of us are prone to making these mistakes, even with the best intentions. So We have to do the best we can always.
That's true. Okay, that's all for today. And we will keep an eye on the following news about Salesforce. So I would like to mention that today is the deadline for ransom. Stay tuned and see you tomorrow.